Okay, so now we're going to work through some examples that really focus on fractions and evaluating expressions that have positives and negatives as well as fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my pen. Then I'm going to open the Equatio extension. Once the Equatio extension is open, as it says here, select the question, then select Edit Math. This is really important because it takes you to the actual Math Space feature where we can show our work. So at this point, you have the choice of either answering digitally by typing, or you can just use the touch screen and then work. So here it says evaluate 3 over 11 equals 7 over 3. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So when I do that, I end up with 9 over 77. And I don't believe that will reduce. Since 9 is only divisible by 3, 1 in itself, 77 is divisible by 7, 11, and 1. So that's as far as we can go with this question. So whenever we're dividing a fraction, the algorithm tells us to multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 7 over 3 is 3 over 7. So I'm going to insert it using that top little button. So I have that. Now I'm going to do the one next to it. So this time it's actually easier than the first question since it's already a multiplication. But I chose this one because I actually want to kind of show you a shortcut. So a lot of people are pretty good at mental math. So what we can do here, instead of multiplying the numerator and numerator and then denominator and denominator to get 12 over 42, I know that both of these numbers are going to be divisible by 6, so that'll give me 2 over 7. So it's perfectly fine to do it that way. However, I'm going to show you an alternative way. So instead of going across on top, across on bottom, I'm going to go diagonally. So I know that 12 and 6, they have a common multiple of 6. So 6 divided by 6, I'm left with 1. 12 divided by 6, I'm left with 2. And now when I do that multiplication piece, 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. 1 multiplied by 7 gives me 7. So that method, it's just something that works in terms of being able to reduce the fraction kind of ahead of time. You cannot do this if you're adding or subtracting. It has to be multiplication. Either are completely acceptable. However, the second method that I showed you makes your number smaller and makes the expression evaluation go a little bit quicker. But again, doesn't matter which way you choose. So then I'm going to insert once again by clicking up here. So now I have my second question evaluated. All right, now this one here, we got a little bit more going on. So I'm going to hit Edit Math. So we really need to follow BEDMAS no matter what type of values that we're looking at. So when I'm looking at this right here, I'm going to hit my pen tool. So equals 2 over 3 minus. It's like I have a bracket around here telling me that this is what I need to do first. So that 1 over 3 is going to stay as is, and I'm going to multiply by 8 over 7. So this is going to give me 2 over 3 minus 8 over 21. So I'm going to move over here. So I need a common denominator, which is going to be 21. So I'm going to multiply by 7, multiply by 7. So I get 14 over 21 minus 8 over 21. So 14 subtract 8 is 6 over 21. And I have one final step since both numerator and denominator are divisible by 3. So that'll leave me with 2 over 7. It's a total coincidence that that's the same answer as the last question. So we have 2 over 7. I'm going to insert that. All right, so then all my work is there. All right, next one. I'm going to edit the math. I'm going to read it while we are in the math space. A group of friends shares 4 pies equally. If each friend receives 2/5 of a pie, show 2 different ways to determine how many friends were in the group. Okay, so essentially 2/5 of the pie, when we multiply that, oops, so I know that 2/5 multiplied by the number of people has to equal 4. And I know that because there's 4 pies in total. So if I want to get the number of people by itself, I can rewrite this as 4 divided by 2 over 5, which becomes 4 multiplied by 5 over 2. So this is an example where I can do the canceling. So 4 and 2 have a 2 common. So 4 divided by 2, you're left with 2. 2 divided by 2, you're left with 1. So then I'm left with 10 as my final answer. So that's one way of doing it. I'll let you figure out another way of doing it. All right, and there's all my work. Okay, so next question. Every Monday, Beatrix walks to the gym, which is 9/10 of a kilometer away from her house. Last Monday, she is 2/3 of the way to the gym when she realizes that she forgot her gym bag at home. How far has Beatrix traveled in kilometers when she turns back? Show your work and write your answer as a single simplified fraction. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually resize this. So I selected the question. I'm going to hold the shift button and I'm going to drag from the corner just to make it a little bit smaller to give me some space. By holding the shift and doing the dragging, it doesn't distort it. It keeps the proportional size. So essentially in this question, so for this one, I'm actually going to type it. I want to get it so that I can put in 2 lines where I can potentially have my equal sign aligned on the left side. So I'm going to start by doing Shift Enter and Shift Space, and that creates my little table here. I'm not going to put anything in the first column. So we're essentially doing 2/3 of 9/10. So that's a multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 9 over 10. So then I'm going to click down below or use my arrow. So that's going to equal, so 2 times 9, we're going to get 18 over 30. Again, I moved it just to the end of the row. So I'm going to hit Shift Enter. And then I'm going to get equals. I can't leave it as 18 over 30. I need to reduce it. So 18 and 30 are both divisible by 6. So I'm going to be left with 3 over 5. Now, if you wanted to, you could go back up here next to that 18 and start typing divide. If you want to show the step to kind of generate where that's coming from. You don't have to do this, but I'm trying to show as much of my thinking as I can. So that's how I'm getting that 3 over 5 value. Now you'll notice it says replace math here. If I were to replace the math right now, this whole question would go away. So actually let's, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click off of that and then hit insert math. And then I'm going to close this menu and I'm going to drag this down so that I can see it. So show your work and write your answer as a single simplified fraction. So then I would probably do a therefore statement. So I'm going to go into the equation editor. I'm going to trash this here. I'm going to select text. So therefore, Beatrix was, what was the answer that we had here? Beatrix was, I'm going to 3/5, get back the text, of a kilometer. All right, and again, you'll notice it put it on top. I just need to drag it, and then I'm going to insert. And it flashes, and there's my work. So we have 2 questions left that I'm going to work through right now. So evaluate the expression below. If x equals -2 and y equals -3. So I'm going to go to my equation editor. I'm actually going to do the same thing, Shift Enter, Shift Space. And I'm going to start by writing the original question, minus y to the power of 3. Then I'm going to put equals. A big thing in math, whenever you're replacing a variable, you have to use a bracket to substitute in, and I'll explain why as we're doing this. So I have bracket -2, close bracket, to the power of 2, minus open bracket -3, close bracket, to the power of 3. So then I'm going to do Shift Enter. I'm going to put equals. So by putting the bracket here, and whenever you substitute in for a variable, you have to use a bracket, because -2 squared gives me a value of +4. I'll show you an example where it's -4 in a second. So I have 4 minus, when I cube -3, that's -3 times -3, which is +9, times another -3 to get -27. So then I have Shift Enter. So I'm going to get equals 31 is my answer, because the negative and the negative next to each other is going to become a positive. So I'm just going to go ahead and insert that. I'm going to drag it down here to show it. And as I said, I wanted to address the whole negative piece. So if I have -2 squared, this actually means -2 times 2, which equals -4. -2 inside a bracket squared really means -2 multiplied by -2 to give us +4. So it's a very subtle difference. So that's why it's super important when you're ready to substitute in that you end up using brackets all the time. So then you don't run into this situation right here. Had I not used the bracket and I put it in on my calculator, it probably would have given me back that -4 answer, when in reality, this question needs the +4. So I'm going to insert my work. Okay. And the last example we're going to do the same kind of thing, except we have a fraction that we're going to substitute in. So for this one here, I'm going to use my pen tool. So I'm actually looking at this expression. So I'm just going to rewrite it right here. X cubed minus 2x plus 1. So that's going to equal, I'm replacing the x. So I have 1/2 cubed minus 2 times 1/2 plus 1. So over here, 1/2 cubed is the same as 1/2 multiplied by 1/2 multiplied by 1/2. So when I do that, 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1 is still 1. 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 is 8. Minus, if I have 2 multiplied by 1/2, 2 halves make a whole, so I have -1 and I have +1. So my final answer ends up being 1/8. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my math by selecting the top right corner. And there I have my example. So there are some ratio questions on this assignment as well. However, there are videos in the previous example if you're not sure how to work with those. So hopefully this makes sense. And if not, please contact me with any questions.